All right, let me get this out of the way real quick. There's nothing wrong with generic fragrances, but if you clicked on this video, and you did because you're listening to me say this, I presume it's because you relate to the title in some way. Or maybe you're just being nosy and have no intention of checking out any of these fragrances. You just wanted to see what the fuss was about. You are welcomed nonetheless. In this video, we're going to focus on 8 designer fragrances in my collection that, in my opinion, are special. What makes them special is that they have distinct scent profiles that give them personalities that don't smell trendy. Thus, to me, they stand out amongst the sea of redundancy in the mainstream market today. Now, I gotta warn you, what often comes with distinction is specificity, and what often follows specificity is polarization. What does that mean? It means at least a few of my picks may not be to your taste, but that is simply part of the territory of a video like this. If you're seeking a path less traveled through the forest, you gotta expect to brush up against a few thorns here and there. But trust me, these fragrances won't hurt you. And you can find all 8 of them at Max Aroma, who is bringing you guys this video. You probably already know who they are, but if you don't, they're a fantastic source of designer and niche and a lot in between as far as fragrances go for some great prices. If you're looking to sample fragrances, they have a great way of doing that with their travel decants, which is an awesome way to not commit to a full bottle before committing to a full bottle. Yeah, with all that out the way, let's dive right into it. In no particular order, first one up here is one of my absolute favorites from Guerlain. I've loved this for years now. This is called Homme Ideal L'Intense. It has been changed now to be called Intense, and the bottle's gonna look different too if you happen to get it. This is a beautiful, sweet, warm, spicy, smoky, woody fragrance. You have that signature bitter almond, which adds this creamy, nutty feel. It's very hot and spicy, and there's this subtle dark smokiness hovering around that comes out more on the skin and more as it dries down. So it is sweet, it is spicy, it is warm. It has a lot of elements that usually work together to create a very likable fragrance. Also, I think there's some cardamom in here, which is an alluring quality, but in its core, as it dries down, it's something a little bit more mature, a little bit more sophisticated, not going to be for every nose. So do try at your own risk, but I think it's wonderful. Very elegant to wear, maybe even a little bit alluring, as I said, especially for an evening out, dressed up a little bit more during the cooler months. This is one to check out. That is Homme Ideal L'Intense from Guerlain. We have a timeless gentleman's classic here, if you're asking me. I believe it might be discontinued, but it's still out there amongst the discount websites, Max Aroma included. In fact, Max Aroma is the one who sent me this bottle per my request maybe sometime last year. I tried it years ago, many years ago, and loved it, and finally have a bottle as of a year or 2 ago. This is Bottega Veneta pour Homme. This is a fresh, piney, green, and woody leathery fragrance, and the leather here is so supple. If you can imagine Bottega Veneta, they're known for their leather goods. If you've ever experienced their leather goods in person, they are posh. And you get that vibe here. It is very supple, soft, in the background, foundational leather. It's not really dark. It is, again, kind of fresh and piney, green, almost like being out in the forest, but you have a leather handbag with you for some reason. It smells really elegant. It smells light. It's kind of transparent. This could be a daily wear if you want something that smells a little bit distinguished, smells masculine, again, classic smelling, maybe almost harking back to older styles of fragrances, but still very contemporary. So could be a daily wear if you love it. Could be a signature scent if it speaks to your personality. That is Bottega Veneta pour Homme. This is the eau de toilette version. Up next will be one of those fragrances that is definitely not going to be for all of you out there. Wow, this is a bit of a powerhouse. If you like its predecessor, you might like this even more. If you don't like its predecessor, then you might still like this. This is from Tom Ford, not the last of Tom Ford we'll see in this video. This is Black Orchid Parfum, and it takes that sweet, almost banana fruity, slightly coconut creamy floral vibe of the original that has this slightly dirty, earthy base to it. It kind of tones down the floral quality, gets a little bit boozy. There's a pretty distinctive truffle note in here, so it's even more earthy. Still kind of sweet in this fruity floral way, but it smells like something you might wear on a night out with a black leather jacket. And it's pretty powerful. You don't need to spray much of this. I wouldn't put on more than 4 sprays. The sillage that it leaves, it smells like something that most people around you will have never experienced before, so you might get some interesting looks, and you'll get some overly interested looks if you spray too much. That's not a good thing. You've been warned. That is Tom Ford Black Orchid Parfum. This one is so different. It's so unique. There's nothing really sharp or edgy about it. There's nothing that I find hard to like, but it's just different. It may not smell like something you would put on your body. It's just a really interesting, nice smell, but as a fragrance, it may not be for all of you. This is from Hermès. This is called L'Ombre des Merveilles, the shadow of marvels, shadow of wonders, something like that. This is so interesting, but it's exquisite, beautiful. It paints a picture for me kind of similar to this bottle. I imagine myself walking along the beach at night under a sky full of stars. It's a little bit chilly in the air. You get this coolness from the ocean. It doesn't smell aquatic, but there is this cool, almost watery air vibe to it. Almost like the sea foam. You're smelling that. It's almost foamy in a way. There is this soapy, fruity quality. I don't know where that comes from. That's how it comes together for me. Now, if you look at the note breakdown, it's going to show like tea and incense and maybe tonka bean. I guess those are the main players, but that is not the full story. So it's my hope that what I just told you explains this story a little bit more. If that sounds interesting to you, this is definitely not generic. If you love it, you'll really love it. Otherwise, you might scratch your head at it a little bit. Hermès, L'Ombre des Merveilles. We are back to the house of Tom Ford with, I believe, again, another discontinued fragrance that is still readily available in many places, Max Aroma being one of them. This is called Noire Eau de Parfum. This is such an introspective fragrance. It's one that I had to grow into. When I first smelled this many years ago, it wasn't for me. In fact, I hated it. I did a review on it. If you want to go back and watch that, you can, but it's not really going to add much value to you, honestly. I find this to be such an interesting fragrance. It is a moody scent, just like this bottle. It's in all black. It's not a fragrance that smiles at you. It's not a fragrance that makes you feel welcome, but when you're next to it, it's comforting in a way, in a gothic, foggy type of way, if you can imagine such a thing. It is rose, it is patchouli. There is this foggy like freshness to it. It's almost like being out in a cemetery or some kind of old road on a foggy night. That is kind of the freshness it lends. It's a little bit sweet, it's damp smelling, it's earthy, a little bit rosy, maybe a little ambery in a way, kind of warm as it dries. What I like about it is that it's kind of subtle. It doesn't hit you all at once. I think if it was really rich and dense, it would be kind of disgusting, but thankfully it has a little bit of transparency to it, so just much more nuance. Really well done. Tom Ford Noire Eau de Parfum. From Lalique, a house that is known to make fragrances that don't really do what the status quo is doing. Now, this fragrance, you gotta enjoy vetiver. Vetiver is a very distinctive woody element. It can be bitter, it can be smoky and leathery, dry, maybe a little grassy smelling, either one or a combination of those elements together, and it is polarizing for sure. But this is vetiver done in a classy way. This is Encre Noire à l'extrême. This is this slightly inky vetiver that is known from the original Encre Noire, but it's taken into a slightly warmer, almost ambery resinous territory. Marginally sweet, but not really. It is mostly bitter and woody, but with a little bit more warmth, kind of wrapping up the woods, toning down the edginess. Not as edgy as the original, ironically enough, even though the name says it's to the extreme, it's a little bit less extreme if you're asking me. It wears very elegant. It's not very loud, sits close to the skin, which I think is in its favor. Again, a fragrance like this, if it was very pungent, you'd be making people sick around you. But instead, it's now something you can wear on a classy evening out pretty much year round if you love it. Encre Noire à l'extrême. We've got another vetiver forward fragrance that is probably the most polarizing on this list.
This is so good.
I want to say this fragrance is perfectly a 50-50 split in terms of people who hate it versus people who love it. There's very little in the middle from what I've seen. This is from Gucci Guilty Absolu. Discontinued, but still readily available all over the place. Now, if you have not yet tried this fragrance because of the negative feedback you've heard about it, then I highly recommend that you get your nose on it. Don't let other people's negative opinions sway you from doing something that you're interested in doing. Especially if you can get yourself a sample of it. Get a sample, see what you think, at least you'll know. Don't just adopt someone else's opinion, not even if it was me. But this is, as I said, a vetiver forward fragrance, bitter and woody, smoky, pretty leathery, a little bit medicinal smelling, earthy, it's dark, it's dry, not very fresh, but has this masculine authoritative quality, something that I would stray away from wearing in the heat. I'm only gonna wear this when it's cool outside, and I'm not gonna put on too much. It's not the strongest fragrance ever, but the scent per personality is pungent. It's not a personality that you want to be strong, because it's strong all by itself. It's like having a voice that's loud enough to where you don't need a microphone. But if you get a microphone, it better be turned up just a little bit, otherwise it's going to be overkill. That's the vibe I get out of this. I hope that makes some sense to you. Gucci Guilty Absolute. Let me know if you dig this one, or if you don't. All is fair. And the final fragrance is one of the newest from the house of Cartier. Once again, pretty polarizing. Some of you are going to scratch your head at this fragrance. This is one that I can't say I absolutely love it, but there's something about it that I find addictive to. When I wear it, I can't get enough of it. But when I smell it up close, this is so different. This is called Pasha de Cartier Noire Absolu. And this is smoky caramel with a little bit of the Pasha de Cartier Fougere DNA. It's totally muffled in the heart of this. It's not really a fresh fragrance, but it's sweet, almost gourmand smelling, but shrouded in this dark smoke.
It's so different.
I think what makes it so well composed is that it is light. Now, it will stick around. I found this lasting on my skin 8, 9, 10 hours, but it sits close to the skin pretty early, which is completely in its favor. Trust me, you do not want this fragrance filling a room. Otherwise, you will be the only one in that room before long. The fact that it sits close to the skin is something that as people pass you or if they hug you, they get a whiff of it, and it's subtle.
It's so different.
It's so unique. It's going to leave an impression on people. Whether or not they say something, they will remember this fragrance. Let me know if you enjoy Cartier, Pasha de Cartier Noire Absolu. If you haven't, you can try it at the link down below at Max Aroma. Let me know what you think of these fragrances down in the comments if you've tried them, and thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.